And this little picture is going to be on a small Bockingford pad, the 7x10, and it's going to be a pen, ink and watercolour. Start off with your pencil and faintly draw in, plot in the zebra's head on your sheet. Once again, very important to get it right at the beginning to make sure that it's well positioned on the sheet of paper. And then mark in where the eye goes, the other detail, his muzzle, his mouth. Get the structure right. Draw it in very carefully, his nose. Take your time. It's important to get it accurate so he looks right. His neck comes down and his bristle mane. His eyes. Then start plotting in his stripes. It's very important to get them accurate. A zebra with stripes that are not accurate looks very peculiar. I was brought up in Africa, in Kenya to be precise. These are always one of my favourite animals. You see no end of them. The northern race up in Kenya was called Burchell's zebra, and that was a very much of a black and white stripe. The southern race down in Zimbabwe and towards South Africa is called Chapman zebra, and they have a brown line between the black and white stripes, so not as crisp as this one. Here's a fact. You know, zebras are lions' favourite prey. What's amazing with them, when there's a drought on or times are hard and the other animals are all emaciated and starved, zebras always contrive to look good and plump and well fed. Terrific animals. The stripes are basic camouflage, break up his shape against vegetation and background. Very effective, mind you. They can be very hard to spot in their natural environment. Draw his ear in there and the patches around his ear, but you can see you construct it and draw it in very carefully, delicately draw it. Take your time. So you hold the pen nice and loosely, not clutching at it. Come down his neck. Plot the stripes in. Basically get the thing drawn in really accurately and in great detail. So there you have the zebra all drawn in, plotted in, ready to do the pen and ink. Start off with the eye. Get your eye drawn in and then start working up on your stripes and detail. Inked in. Basically ink over what you've drawn in before. Start bringing some shading, fine amounts of cross hatching, wrinkles on his muzzle. I always like my drawings to be good enough to be freestanding drawings before the colour, so you can actually, if you want to, with computers and the age of computers now, scan the drawing when it's done and you've got a very nice print in sepia of a zebra. Then you put the colour on, you've got a print of the zebra in colour as well. Amazing what you can do with a computer these days if you can do the artwork originally. Take it on, put the hairs around his muzzle. You start on the stripes. There's that shadow down his jaw where his cheek is. And work up your stripes. And what you want to do with those is basically cross-hatching. Go one way, then the other. And use your pen to create a furred effect of the animal. You see, once you've drawn the eye in first, how you're working with a live subject. It's quite extraordinary. It's always worth putting the eye in first. You build up a relationship with your drawing. Once again, take your time with it. You're not playing beat the clock, you're out to produce a nice, well-finished drawing. As you draw, analyze what you're doing. Keep an eye on the rest of the picture to make sure you're not overdoing one spot. You're going to find yourself in trouble later on trying to balance up your drawing. As you can see with this rotary pen I'm using, the syringe has been fully charged before we started the job. So you just keep on drawing. You don't have to keep on dipping it and worrying about blotting your paper. Very, very comfortable pen to use. I recommend them actually. If you want to use a pen as opposed to a fibre tip, I don't think you can beat that rotary art pen. I've been using them for a good few years now, probably 20 years plus. Very important to get ink that doesn't clog. The nice thing is with these, you can strip them down, take the nib out and take the pen completely apart and clean it. So you can literally turn it back into a new pen with some warm water and a toothbrush and a pin to clean out the grooves. Here we go, his ear now. Draw the ear very carefully and remember that the ear is actually on this side of his head, so you want it to appear to be on the side of his head. So as you shade it and shade the background, try to remember that so the ear actually stands out. Varying pressure with the pen. You can see as you vary the pressure, so the thickness of line and intensity of line varies. There you see, put some shading in there, a bit of fur on the front of his ear, very soft fur. The other one now is mane. Amazing manes, they stand up like a, I was going to say toilet brush, but a bristle brush. And they're striped as well, so you've got the light and the dark. Bit of unevenness in it there to make it feel natural. And your strokes of pen and ink run the same way as the fur. Always run it the same way as the fur, like that, and it keeps it looking natural. Then back to developing those stripes. It's quite a long job. It's not the sort of job you can rush. You've got to sit down and do it. You try to cut corners, you'll spoil it. What are you talking about doing a drawing like this? Maybe an hour, 2 hours. Time well spent. Look at the way he's got a nice fluffy face building up now. Soft. Amazing how something as harsh as pen and ink can look so soft. Never cease to marvel at it. As you spend a great deal of time looking at those people who did the engravings and the etchings and things like the old illustrated London News before they had cameras. And the drawings those guys managed to do, engraving plates or etching plates, drawing in wax with a needlepoint. Superb pieces of artwork. hook on the neck. Don't forget he's actually rounded. You're working on a flat surface and he's rounded, so you want to give him the appearance of being rounded, so you have to vary your shading. That actually emphasizes the curve of his neck there. So you're going to shade down below as well and shade in to give the undulations and the shapes of his neck. There we go. Go further down underneath his neck and shade that so it goes from dark underneath there where it's away from the light up onto the lighter side. You see, you go backwards and forwards, go back over these stripes to bring them up. Once they're all in there, you see the difference. Keep on bringing up that detail. Every single zebra has different stripes, a bit like our fingerprints. I rode one once. Somebody had a pet one in Kenya, up country. Rather bizarre experience it was. That's an amazing thing being brought up in Kenya, the number of pets people had. We had friends who had pet cheetahs, pet lions. I suppose a bit like here, you rescue a baby blackbird and you've got a blackbird around the house for a while, but out there the babies tend to be a bit bigger. Like elephants. Rhino. You notice the brown, how it's a lovely soft earth colour, not as harsh as black. There's a drawing that would frame up with a nice white surround, brown mount, nice Italian gilt frame. Make a nice picture as it stands. Work back over the eye. Get that to a really shiny, attractive eye. The mirror of the soul. Eyes are the most important thing when you're doing any form of animals, birds, even people. Get the eyes right and the rest usually follows. So you can bring in more detail into that ear to try and make it stand out a bit more from the rest of his mane in his head. It's coming up nicely. Go away and have a cup of coffee whilst you're doing it and come back and look at it. Just to decide if you need to do more or what you have to do. Take your time on it and analyse your work as you go. There we are. One nicely done zebra. And since it's pen and ink, you're going to sign it at this stage, having first rubbed it out and cleaned it up. Make sure it's dry. I did that instantly, it was probably 20 minutes. There we go, the signature goes on. Nicely positioned, nice and straight. Once again, the whole thing is well clear of that edge. You can see where the mount can go and it won't cover your drawing. Now we go on to the watercolour. Clean palette. And look, can you see there's a faint orangey brown tinge around there? So you're going to mix up some burnt sienna. Nice thin wash of it. Just check it. Delicate wash. And that you're going to work in round above his eye there. Sorry, my head's appearing again. I try and keep it out of the way. When you're working on detail, it's very difficult. The camera's actually up above me, looking down on me. Nice even wash. Next, you're going to put some burnt umber, burnt sienna, alizarin crimson, and test your colour. straight onto the muzzle. He does. Tut tut, he should have checked that first, but no, happy with it anyway. Beigey brown muzzle. Just the underlying colour. Once again, you're building up layers of colour, so you start off with your delicate washes and you're going to build them up to achieve the final effect. Then clean off your palette, bit of toilet paper there. You see, keeping the palette clean stops you cross-mixing your colours and getting gungy other colours into your painting. The stripes. Ultramarine, alizarin crimson, make up a purple. Then your burnt umber to make up a wash of almost black. A rich black. There we go. It's purple with burnt umber. Takes it down to a colour that's almost black. Never use the black that watercolour comes with. It's so thick and it'll flatten your picture so quickly you won't believe it. Make up your own black. Purple and dark brown. We're going to start washing in his stripes. Very carefully, small brush. A layer around his eyeball as well to start darkening that eyeball. Round onto your stripes. The difference that makes already, his muzzle starting to take shape. Carefully do the washes. Very accurate with this. Don't blot it. Keep to where it's drawn in as stripes. Round to his mane. All the way around his eye there. Once again, working so that you don't put this heel of your hand into your wet paint. You see your position of holding the brush changes depending on the work you're doing. More detailed close up, freer and easier and faster movement, further back. Mixed up some more dark there. A touch of blue to it, ultramarine, alizarin crimson. Quite a striking black. There, now. This is the first layer's dried. You're going to work in the second one. Work around his muzzle there to darken that. And his stripes. It's got quite a contrast to him, but you don't want to go put your black in, mix it so intensely you think you're saving time by doing it all at once, because all you'll do is end up with muddy colour. If you want to do that, work in acrylic or oil paint, but you don't do it with watercolour. There we go. Look at the way he's starting to sparkle on that paper. Lovely animal. Go quite weak at the knees when I look at them. Look at that. Get that stripe in now. Don't you think that colour with that pen and ink really gives it body? It's a wonderful combination. Let it dry between bits. You want to make sure that you don't have colours running into themselves, unless you want that to happen. But some people like to use a hairdryer to speed up the process. The only trouble is with that, I believe that in a few years you'll find your paper will yellow. It damages the fibres in the paper. It doesn't do it any good. I knew one very famous artist who was used to produce watercolours at an alarming rate, and one hand had a massive great brush and the other one had a great big hairdryer blowing hot air onto it so you could get the paintings done quicker. They've probably all disappeared now, gone bright yellow. Now, take your time, work between have a cup of coffee if you're worried. Let it dry. Come back to it. See, look, I blotted something. A bit of toilet paper. It's much more economical than great big rolls of kitchen towel, which are expensive. Very absorbent. Just a supermarket cheapo. There's nothing, not an expensive toilet paper at all. Not this luxury soft with little puppy dogs. Back onto his mane. Just keep on working with a very fine brush. The next thing is you're going to clean off your palette. And here we go again. Water. Clean water. Notice how dirty the mixing pot's going. Here we go. Alizarin Crimson. Ultramarine. Nice shade of purple. Up comes the test strip again. You don't always have to use a test strip like that. You can go direct, as I occasionally do. But it does help just to make sure you get the colour you want. And there's your purple. Now it's the shadow going in. Do this very carefully as well. You want it to go exactly where you want it. Unlike the woodland track where you tend to sort of splash it all over. With this you're much more specific to get the shape of his face. Round his jawline. Along that line where his cheek runs there. And down underneath his neck. Carefully bring it down to the bottom there so it sits comfortably. Along to his mane there, where the mane causes a slight shadow at the top end of his neck. It all adds to get the curved and rounded shape of his head. Right, next job, white gouache. You can leave him as he is now, or do what I do, get stuck in with a white gouache. First thing is you want to get some extra highlights into his eye. Little white dot in his eye there. And a bit of shine along where the bottom of the eyelid is. And on his nose with a bit of moisture in his nostril. I like to go along and on the edge where the purple forms quite a severe line. Put some little specks of white in to represent the fur going over it. It actually makes it sparkle because it's the white against the purple. Same again around his muzzle there. Only a small amount, tiny bit here and there, but amazing difference it makes. You see those sharp edges where that purple line runs. Look around the picture and you'll see different places where it needs a bit of highlighting. Don't overdo it. Along his ear there. Nice three-dimensional ear. Sticks out from his side of his head then. And basically, there you have the Zebra Pen Ink and Watercolour.